Hello and welcome to the top 10 Ichigos on Bleach Brave Souls. For this list, the character's stats and abilities have been taken into consideration in order to determine the top 10 Ichigos in this game, not just in terms of power, but also in terms of how useful they are in the current version of the game. Because of this, you might see some Ichigos that are better in specific areas of the game early on in the list than some of the Ichigos near the end of the list. Keep in mind that I tried to keep every mode and its importance under consideration and tried to pick the best ones overall when coming up with this list. With that said, let's begin. Now I know what you guys may be thinking, but actually this isn't the character you're thinking of. It's actually Frenzy Ichigo. It's actually the first time I put a Frenzy character on the list. Now I know OG Bankai Ichigo's stats are actually better than his, but when you really stop to look at this character, the Frenzy one is actually better. His stats are a little lower, but he has two links, which are useful not just for him, but for any character you equip him to, and this one actually has Bruiser and Berserker. This means that while OG Ichigo stats are higher, this one actually does more damage on both his normal attacks and his strong attacks. Not only that, but he also has a way more useful killer, as you're more likely to encounter an Arankar in a raid than a captain. The only thing I will say is that the original does have a much better damaging special, but for a character whose special doesn't have that great a range, it doesn't really matter. In the end, they're both not really useful in anything serious anyway. At number 9 is an Ichigo that desperately needs a remake, Visored Ichigo. Now like I said, he does need a remake, but as far as older characters go, he is one of the best. He does have a pretty decent attack, and while his SP is low, he does have Frenzy. Not only that, but his link is strong attack damage, so that helps out with the Frenzy and the strong attacks. Still, it is a fun character to use, and while he may not be as good as he once was, he does still have potential to come in handy, especially now with the Senkaimon quest out. You might have to take him to an Espada boss raid though, since that is his killer, but you may find him a pretty decent character if you build him correctly. Now after Visored Ichigo, there's actually a huge leap in strength, because at number 8 we have Dangai Ichigo, who was once the strongest character in the game. He's actually still really good if you build him full NAD. After all, he does have a 740 attack, in addition to a plus 20 NAD link and a plus 15 bruiser. Now admittedly, that bruiser isn't that high, but he does have a plus 50 berserker, which makes his strong attacks deal a decent amount of damage despite his low SP. On top of that, he also has bombardment, meaning his special hits twice. This has the potential to deal a considerable amount of damage, assuming you don't chappy him, which most people do. And you can't blame them. I mean, this character is played best chappied, but even so, you can't ignore his strong attacks. They may not pack that big a hit, but they have pretty good range, especially for an older character. Now unfortunately, he does have a lot of weaknesses, his low bruiser being one of them, and his Espada killer being another. As I mentioned, he once was the strongest character in the game, but since then the game has evolved so much, and so that title is far from true today. Don't get me wrong, he's still a great character, but as far as usefulness goes, he's pretty far from the top. Feel you guys typing angrily. Why is this guy above Dangai? Well, there are actually a few reasons. Now yes, Dangai is way cooler, and he has better range, but unfortunately, that's all he's got. He may have come out after this character, but Full Hollow Ichigo was 6-starred after Dangai, giving K-Lab plenty of time to work out 6-star abilities. What this means is that while yes, Dangai Ichigo's attack is about 40 points higher, Full Hollow Ichigo actually does more damage. The reason is the bruiser. Dangai only has 15%, and Full Hollow has 30. If you do the math, this actually amounts to more damage. In addition to that, Full Hollow Ichigo also has an Arankar killer, which is way more useful than Dangai's Espada killer. Both the Arankar killer and the fact that he's also a Hollow affiliation makes this character a lot more useful in the Senkaimon quests, not to mention just PvE in general. Full Hollow Ichigo also has pretty useful strong attacks. Yes, Dangai's might have better reach, but Full Hollows are more useful. His strong attack 2 does have a 160% mag, and his strong attack 1 is a vortex move. In the end, this Ichigo is just more useful. Now these next two were particularly difficult to place, but in the end I decided to make movie 1 Ichigo number 6. Much like from number 9 to 8, this one's also a huge leap of power from the last one. And here is actually where they start getting really useful. Movie 1 Ichigo has a really high SP as well as a decent attack, and he has Frenzy, plus a plus 30 bruiser. In addition to that, he also has a boosted strong attack recharge link. Unfortunately for him, that's about all he has. He doesn't even have Devastation, which boosts his special, and is almost a staple at this point for a character to have. Still, even without this, he's still a great character. He's useful in almost any sort of PvE, and he's a lot of fun because you can spam his strong attacks that all have really good range, but none of them are full screen. Still, he is one of the best heart characters, and it is nice to know that we have a Bankai Ichigo with a blue Getsuga.
見えるかよ。地獄が俺にすがりついてるぜ。よそ者の俺に手を貸してでも、てめえを逃がしはしねえぞよ。
Now, as I mentioned earlier, the last one and this one are almost interchangeable. Now you may be thinking, but how? They're very different characters, and that's exactly why. Because they're so different, they're kind of hard to compare, and the things that they're useful in vary dramatically. For example, the last Ichigo had very good range, and can dish out damage pretty evenly among all the enemies. This one, on the other hand, packs a way harder hit, but since he's a normal attacking character, he can't really deal wide range heavy damage. This Ichigo has a really high attack, one of the highest in the game, as well as a plus 25 Nat Link and a plus 50 bruiser, allowing him to do 75% more damage just with his own magnifications. Sadly, his SP isn't that high, though he does have a plus 40 Berserker, but his strong attacks still don't deal that much damage. Even so, they're not useless. After all, his strong attack 2 is a Vortex move, which certainly helps with a Nat build, and his strong attack 3 has a chance to inflict debilitating weakening, which helps deal more damage in the end. His special also inflicts weakening, which in turn makes it hit harder, and it can come in real handy in a variety of different modes.
一気に傘をつけるぜ。月が天章。
At number 4 is a community favorite, though I'm not gonna lie, I personally don't care that much for him. Still, even I can see that this character is a very powerful character. And I know some of you are thinking that movie 1 Ichigo does have a higher SP and a higher attack as well. And while yes, that is true, that is not the only thing I factor in. This character actually has better range on his strong attacks, as his strong attack 3 is a full screen move. A full screen move that hits in waves, making it more effective for combos and for hitting more enemies depending on the situation. Not only that, but this one also has a useful special. He not only has a plus 40 devastation, but it can also inflict a reduction of attack for the enemy. And for some of us who made it to the higher levels of the Senkaimon quest, you guys know how useful this can be. And while movie 1 Ichigo's attack is higher, this one has a plus 40 bruiser, making his Nat actually better than movie 1 Ichigo's. And the reason he made it so high on the list is because you can use him in multiple different areas in the game, and you will get really good results in any one of them.
見せてやるぜ。俺の力のすべてを。この一振りで型をつける。月が天章。
Now here's where a lot of you might get angry, because for some reason, some people don't like this character because of his charge move. Some people just don't like charge moves in general, which I think is kind of ridiculous, as it's almost the equivalent of having a special every 24 seconds. For this particular character, it's actually better than his own special, at least his own special without a Tenshintai. After all, he has a really high SP as well as Frenzy, and a decent attack with a plus 40 bruiser. He also has an Arankar killer, which is way more useful than any of the other Ichigos on this list so far. Not only that, but he has a boosted strong attack damage link of 25%, and he has a hollow affiliation, which I assume most of you realize how useful that is now. Still, he does have his weaknesses. After all, he doesn't have a full screen strong attack, even though his fully charged strong attack 3 may seem like it. He also just has an average special, with the normal 40% devastation. But like I said, his strong attack 3 hits with the power of a special, and it's something he can use over and over. In the end, that kinda makes up for it, and it's why he made it at number 3 on the list.
行くぜ。月が天章。
Now this Ichigo may not have 2 affiliations, but he does have 2 killers, and they're the best killers of Soul Reaper and Arankar. This actually makes him useful in twice as many events of every kind, and it makes him one of the best characters to take if you're doing an Inheritance Zone or Droplet Zone that has both Arankar and Soul Reaper enemies. In the Senkaimon quests, you can take him in anything that multiplies the killers for both Soul Reapers and Arankars, and in just about every other sort of PvE, he is extremely good for crowd control due to his Vortex Strong Attack 2, and he can deal heavy damage with his Strong Attack 1 and 3, as he has a pretty high SP as well as Frenzy. He also has a decent attack and a plus 30 bruiser, and a pretty quick net string, making his normal attack not a bad option if you need to use it. Not gonna lie guys, this one actually feels like the all-rounder that we wanted. And although some of the other Ichigos can deal a bit more damage, his double killer opens up so many doors in this game that I just couldn't not put him at number 2.
冷圧をぶち込んで叩き起こしたいやつがいるんだ。まだ全然使いこなせちゃいねえけどな。
And at number 1 we have Manga Ichigo, which I'm sure all of you saw coming at this point because he is one of the heaviest hitting characters in the entire game. After all, he does have the highest attack in the whole game and flurry as well as a plus 20 Nadlink, making his normal attacks extremely devastating. And I get it, some of you don't like him because he's ranged, but even you guys have to admit that he deals a butt ton of damage. And because he's ranged, it actually makes him useful in multiple areas in the game. After all, his attack speed is pretty fast, and each of his attacks hit a pretty wide area, which helps with hitting multiple enemies and also helps with increasing the combo. Speaking of which, his strong attack 2 also helps increase the combo as it's a crawling vortex move. His strong attack 3, while it doesn't deal that much damage, is good for breaking guard as it's full screen, and his strong attack 1 is good for keeping enemies away. That said, his strong attacks don't really deal that much damage, but who needs them to when his normal attack is that powerful? Build him correctly, and this guy can auto almost any raid. He's also one of the few NAD characters you can take in guild quests, and he's a huge help in any co-op you take him in. This Ichigo also has a useful special. While it may not deal that much damage, it does inflict defense weakening, and because he's a flurry NAD character, you can bet that the upcoming damage is going to be devastating. Honestly, the only downside to this character is his Espada killer, but you can understand why they wouldn't give him one of the 3 best killers. Also, the Espada killer isn't that useless anymore with the addition of Senkaimon quests. I could also go into some of the other game modes that this character would be great in, but that would stretch out the video way too long. Still, the fact that I could do that speaks a lot about this character and the reason why I put him at number 1. Thank you guys so much for watching Ichigo Week. If you liked this video and you like the rewinds, consider hitting like and subscribing to the channel. After all, step ups are coming, and you can bet that I'll have a lot of content on that.